All right, we're going to kick things off this week's WTF Wednesdays. We have Mr. Pete Busam here with Equilibrium Consulting. And Pete is joining us live from Chicago. He is down at, I almost said CompTIA. He's down at GTIA, CCF. And it's been a great event for you from our discussions and the things that I've heard from others. And today we're going to talk about referrals. And we all know that referrals are a great way for us to be able to drive new business into our MSPs, but it's not something that just happens automatically as much as we would expect it to. Sometimes we do, we need to reach out and ask for it. We'll obviously talk more about that, but uh, and in there, just like anything, there isn't any magic wand, right, Pete?
No, there's no one silver bullet that you can say is going to make it work or not work. There's
Yeah.
like anything, you got to put in some effort and find the levers to push that start working for you. It's going to be different in every geography.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we you know, take a look at, what is a good referral, and that's one of the things that we're going to talk about. We're going to go through some of the key elements of a strong referral, how to ensure both parties benefit, because it can't be one-sided. I think we've all seen that, from a referral perspective. Like even if you look at like chamber events, BNI events, if you look at referrals from that perspective versus from a client, a lot of times there's one party that you know, looking more from you than, they're looking to give. And, which is always frustrating and challenging. And we're also going to talk a little bit about some of the mistakes to avoid when making introductions. As always, with our format, we're going to start out with Pete talking for a little bit, and then you'll be conversational. But if you do have questions, feel free to jump in. We would love to hear some questions that you have. And then, Pete, if you could just give our audience, for those that don't know you, just a brief overview of your background, because you've been on both sides as far as you are a vendor in the marketing space, but you've also been an MSP. So you know the business.
So I've been in the channel now. I just counted. Well, we were talking, a bunch of us old geriatric guys here at GTIA, and this will be 32 years that I'm in the channel. Uh,
That's awesome.
and I thought it was like 29 or 30, and then somebody was like, "No, no, no! Don't you remember when we, used to do the breakaway events when it was CompTIA breakaway
Oh,
early
I
on after
remember
they moved
breakaway.
to." Yeah, after originally it was ABC, and then they went to CompTIA and started the breakaway. So I guess I date myself, but I was an
Yeah.
IT provider, VAR, whatever we called ourselves back then, and had about a $65 million business base that I ran and I was responsible for. And we got rolled up in an acquisition and sold to General Dynamics Technology Services. So the PE guys took me and they liked me and they put me into a internet company. And I think back then we called it application service provider. We didn't call it cloud just then. It was a little bit before its time. Bandwidth was still very expensive. And but we still had dial-up modems, and we probably had about 60 somewhat thousand. We brought a Lucent 5E switch into the picture and switched our own dial tone. So we made money by giving ourselves dial tone to our modems.
Mm.
And we sold out a lot of colo space and things of that nature. So I had gained a lot of experience on both sides of the coin, originally coming out as a tech out of the Navy and working my way through the ranks. So I've sat in every chair and then run a couple MSPs since. And then for the last 17 years, Equilibrium has been out there doing marketing for the MSPs and the vendors, bringing a very unique value proposition between MSP and vendor to help each other. And then obviously we know the SMB space to help the MSP or security provider reach their end users trying to to get their attention. So that's the nickel tour.
Yeah, and I mean, thank you for making me feel old.
You're still young.
So hearing Breakaway, I do remember Breakaway and Lucent. I remember I worked for a technology startup out of Santa Clara, California that it is what is considered today managed services along with HaaS, where we would go in and we would basically get rid of all their technology, bring in brand new technology, new computers. So I think we had like 20 million from Dell, 20 million from HP. And so but we put wireless devices in, which in that time in the year 2000, I believe it was, which was a pretty big deal. They were
Yeah.
Lucent, wireless access points where, it was a massive box with an antenna that was, cabled and, this big antenna. And yeah, those were the days.
And
So,
everybody wanted you to hide them because they were a sore thumb to their pretty offices.
yes, yes. That and also everybody was worried about the signals that were being sent because they were concerned about am I going to get cancer from this device that's transmitting this data throughout our office and
Yeah.
yeah. So
Meanwhile, they had a cell phone up to their ear, but they were worried about that.
right, exactly.
Yes. So,
So all right, well I'm going to let you jump in for a few minutes and then we'll open up to some discussion.
yeah. So, when you talked with me earlier, we were trying to figure out what was a good topic. And, we can always talk branding and things like that. But one of the things that most uh, smaller MSPs do is they build their business based on referrals. And, referrals get you to that $2.5 million mark before you can exhaust them. But done right, they can be an incredible source of net new logos for your business, right? But um, most firms are getting referrals based on the owner's relationship with somebody. And they don't necessarily put it into a light that says, how can I proactively get this instead of waiting for my customer who likes me to say, I gave your name to somebody, and then you make the phone call and do it. So there's ways that you can design a program, you can publish it, you can market it, you can use it in your QBRs to help you. And there's a variety of these different ways. And some of them are putting them on your website, which everybody does, but that to me is a set it and forget it mode. You put it on the website, you have a form, somebody can fill it out, but that's really far and few between that somebody fills out that form. They usually pick up the phone or you get an email or you have some conversation that somebody did it. So the best way for you to do it is through the relationship that you've already built and a leave behind. And so those are the kind of things that I want to like banter back and forth with today, Dan, is just, what are those methods and how do you implement them? They're very easy, and they don't take a lot of resources to do. So,
Excellent. You know, I think when you take a look at referrals, we do let me just bring myself back in here. There we go. So when we think about referrals, I think sometimes we think that it's an automatic that, hey, I'm doing a great job. We're taking care of their technology. And it's just an automatic that they're going to be telling everybody, they're going to be telling the world, all their, business colleagues about us. And, you know, but they're not coming in. I mean, they do
right,
come in organically, but I think those just happen obviously organically in a very natural fashion. When something comes up, people aren't going to be singing your praises just out of the clear blue sky for no reason. And I think often it's just expected. We think, well, why aren't we getting any kind of referrals?
Right.
Why aren't people talking to us about that? Why is that?
Well, it's like the same thing, the biggest problem with salespeople is they don't ask for the deal, right? The biggest
Yeah.
problem with referrals is you don't ask for the referral. And so you have to find ways to bring it up and leave it behind. So, how do you keep that top of mind? So once you have a conversation, your priority is not your customer's priority. Once you fix their problem or you're out of their hair with the meeting, they're gone and they're on to their next thing and fighting their fires that they have to each day. So you're not top of mind anymore. So what can you do to be top of mind? So what I recommend is a one-page flyer that you can leave behind and make it part of your process. So after you do a project and you do a debrief on the project, hey, if you're happy with you, I wanted to leave you with this thing about our program, and how it can benefit you or your company. Here's a little flyer on it, and here's how it works. Do you have anybody that you could give me today, or that you could give me over the next couple of days that I might call that would be happy, that you might be happy to introduce us to? And that's the other part of it, is getting the introduction. Don't just take the name, right? Because it's always nice from a referral perspective to get a warm handoff than a cold handoff. That makes it, you've got more validation at that point. And other than, yeah, gee, I was talking with Dan, and he said I should talk to you. But if Dan makes a call and introduces me or sends an email of introduction, I I, I have a much warmer handoff and opportunity to make that connection and go forward. So it's a process, and you got to work it just like anything else. So
Yeah, and I think, when you talk about that handout and having that discussion, sometimes I think we need to um, review with them what we just accomplished. What is the business outcome that we just took care of? Because ultimately, I think the decision makers that we're working with, who may be the one that's going to be doing those referrals, um, may not be deep into the weeds and see, just like end users are seeing, how this is helping them on a day-to-day basis. And
mhm.
so when you start talking about, I hate to use all the same things, but we focused on increasing efficiency, productivity. We've focused on delivering a better client experience for them, removed bottlenecks for both the employees as well as their clients. We've helped improve profitability. We've helped them gain market share. Like, all those things we need to address, because again, it's not about the technology that we're putting in place. It's about that business outcome. And
Right.
when they, when you go over that with them, they're like, because some of the things they might not recognize. They might see, oh yeah, you did A, B, C, but they might not realize the true value that it just provided. So when you review that with them, then that plants that seed, so that when they are having a conversation with a colleague, and they're talking about, man, I am having just a hell of a day. I'm battling with this issue and that issue. Then that light bulb pops off, and they're like, you know what? We were just dealing with that, and this
Right.
is what we had done. And so you're basically giving them, that food for thought, giving them that ammunition, and helping them to address those issues.
So here's what I recommend is, when you have that conversation with your customer, write down the key points, write down what the problem, solution, and outcome were, and turn that into a one-page case study, right? And then flip it over and put your referral program and how it benefits them. And of course, talk to your client, that you would like to publish that case study, and then email that to your existing base. Email that case study and say, look, this is a customer, this is how they did it. Here's what they do. They refer clients to us, and here's the process, right? And use that case study to promote yourself within your existing case, into your existing base, to promote your referral. And the other
Yeah.
part is you always should be marketing to your client also. I think I did a blog on the Everything MSP about just that. Like, don't forget
Yeah.
about your existing customer, right? Because if you do touches with them, the more you touch them, the more, they're going to come back to you with, oh, wait a minute, I was thinking about this the other day. I better call them. I better email them. I better do something. So you may trigger something that your referral may drag more work out of them, and you may not even realize it, you know? So the more that you attach yourself to your clients, the better. But those little case studies and, sending them out to like companies in your marketing, that are your customers. Wow, if this company is a CPA and this is what they're doing and this is the outcomes that you got, maybe I want to do that. And so you can use that referral program in that case study to promote it within other like customers also.
Yeah, and that's really a great point because none of us have, I shouldn't say none of us. I think most of us, we haven't exhausted all of our efforts to provide everything we possibly can to our clients. And that doesn't mean, like, oh, what is everything that we have to sell? What I mean is we haven't exhausted our ability to get in there and have those business conversations to identify, where their challenges are, what's keeping them up at night.
Right.
Um, we are so often focused on going wide instead of going deep. So we're trying to build more and more clients, grab more and more clients when we already have existing clients who love what we do because they're paying us every month for everything that we do. And by giving those case studies, then it again is planting that seed of, I didn't think about that, because we don't, as much as we have conversations with them about their business, um, they alone have the level of intimacy about their business that no matter how many conversations we have, we're never going to have the same level of intimacy about their business as they do. And
Right.
so when we're, putting a case study out there, it helps them to identify some things that they didn't think about. I remember many years ago, Intel had done, and they might still do this, but Intel had done some projects with MSPs where they were focused on vPro, and
Right.
so the area of vPro was both the benefit to the MSP as far as the ability to provide a better level of service, like to be able to fire up an image remotely. But a lot of it too was the ability to power on devices that are offline.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a large organization that has a lot of computers, of course, we all want their computers to be on 24/7 so that we can do maintenance around the clock and do updates over, after hours. But the ability to leverage something like vPro and power that device on, after hours and then power it off, that helps to save on cost. And
Mm-hmm.
so we participated. We had a large organization that we worked with, and they were funded both federally and by federal and state. And so, of course, their funds they had to be very careful with, and they were always looking for ways of how could we cut some costs. And so we talked to them about some energy savings. And now the cool thing was being part of the program. Intel provided us with computers free that we were able to give to our clients for free that had vPro. And they also did a case study based on, it was like over a 3 or 4 month period. They developed a case study about what we did as far as energy savings. And they built out the case study for us. And then they also gave us funding to be able to do ads in the local business journal. And, so it was pretty cool because that case study, that was something that we gave to all of our clients. That was something that we gave to prospective clients. We had up on our website, and it just helped to, just help them to see something in a different fashion.
Right. So case studies are very, the power of peer, right? The power of a peer. Even in our community, if we're going to sell a service to somebody as a vendor, if a peer tells you about it, it's much more adapted to have a conversation than I don't want to talk to that vendor, right? So the power of the peers in like markets, using the referral can be a good thing. But let's talk about some do's and don'ts,
Sure.
of a referral program. So when you design a referral program, one of the things that you want to do is you want to create an emotional attachment to the outcome, right? Because emotions are a very strong component of how we feel and how we relate to others. So one of the things that I say is when you design it, a lot of people say, well, I'm going to give a discount back to the company. I'm going to do that. Well, that's great. You can do that. But here's a recommendation that really works a lot better. And it's something that creates a personal. As owners, we have the ability to go out to a nice dinner or expense something or find a way to expense it, etc. But your point of contact may not have that same flexibility, right? So a nice night out on the town for them and a significant other, where they may have kids in college, they can't afford, they can go to a medium style outing on a date night, but man, if you could give them $250 to go to a really nice steakhouse or wherever, whatever it is in your area, they remember that as an attachment to you. And all of a sudden they're saying, I referred somebody and they closed business and I got to go to a nice steakhouse and have a great night out with my spouse or my significant other. There's an additional emotional attachment. And they're like 50% more likely to refer to you again because they know there's no cap on how many of those type things they can. So,
Yeah.
if I can go out and I could fill your pipeline with referrals and you're closing them, and I could every other month take my wife out to a nice steak dinner or a nice seafood dinner or whatever it might be on somebody else. And man, I win in every direction, right? And emotionally, I become very attached to your program and to your company in a different way. So it's not just unraveling if I wanted to leave, unraveling your services to go to another MSP. I'm unraveling an emotional attachment of something that's personal and means something good to me. So it's a way for you to give back to that individual that really affected your business outcome also. And so, yeah, will they look good if you give them a $500 discount on their next month? Yeah, they will, right? But what did that do for them? Did that
Right.
advance their career? Did that give them anything? So finding that emotional attachment that you can give to somebody that's going to make some meaning. Cash is not always a good thing, but a night out on the town, that can be a nice thing. A sporting event, take them to, you got a box somewhere, take them, get them nice tickets, but get something that they might be enjoyed with, not enjoyed with, but something that's enjoyable in their personal life
Yeah.
that you could even go with them and say, hey, I got this box, I want to take you. Or we're going to go out to dinner and then we're going to go to an event. Those kind of things just help build and deepen your relationship. And that's going to return a higher yield of additional referrals. Um, no matter what, you're just going to get a good play from that. So,
I love that. Yeah, I think that personal connection, it does mean more than, that credit on their statement.
mhm,
And I mean, and I think we all should look at times in which we've received those type of incentives,
mhm.
and how it made us feel, and not overlook that.
Yeah, it's the whiff 'em, right? What's in it for me factor.
Yeah.
So, okay, my company does get something, but what's in it for me? So, and if you want to make a really rich plan because you got a really good referral source and they're really feeding you a lot, you can do as much as you want. There's no limit that says I got to do 150, 200 or whatever. If you got somebody that's really feeding you and becomes a good bird dog for you, then nurture that in a different way, find ways to continue to do that. Now, another do, or you go ahead, Dan, you wanted to add something?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was just going to say, wouldn't you agree that we underestimate the value? Like, we always think that it's got to be grandiose. It's got to be this large sum. Like, I'm going to give you, equal to 1 month of credit of what they're spending, so that it's just so outrageous that we feel in our shoes like they're going to be blown away by this. But in reality, that $250 night on the town is more meaningful to them.
Yeah. I mean, again, what's in it for me?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, people are a little bit selfish, and they love doing good things for their customers and getting that pat on the attaboy. But in the end
Yep.
of the day, it didn't do anything for them. And
Yep.
so, we often, you're right, 100%. We think we're doing a good thing by giving our customer a break. And there's other ways that you can give customers a break. You can give them think of like a car dealer, or a retention for you to buy their brand again is they'll give you a dealer incentive of additional $500 or something like that from the deal
Right.
because you're coming back, a returning visitor. So there's different ways that you can jockey a customer sat program for retention, right? And that's a whole different topic. But um, we often think like this is the greatest program. Why isn't everybody taking advantage of it? It's like so
Right.
rich, and again, out of sight, out of mind. If you're not bringing it to their attention, you're more likely not to receive anything.
Yeah.
So you got to work your customer, but that touch point gives you a better conversation. And again, as they're referring, if you haven't talked to them for a while and you're shaking the trees and you call them and say, hey, you got anybody that that might benefit from our services, and look at the outcomes that you've achieved, and the things. They may say, I forgot to give you a call last week, and all of a sudden you have a project that you're talking about too. So it's another opportunity for you to just continue to strengthen your position within your existing base. And that's important.
And before you move on to the next one, you brought up a good point of, if you haven't talked to them in a while, I think sometimes, people see through our motives. So, that's why it is so important that we are having those regular conversations with them, so that when we do reach out to them for something that benefits us, it's, it's more than that. We're not, they're like, oh, haven't heard from you in a while, but you're calling and asking for a referral. So just keep in touch with them, and for sure. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one.
So so another do. I know we all struggle to do QBRs, not because we struggle, but getting the appointment and keeping our customer on task to do them, whether they're monthly, quarterly, whatever review or whatever you call it. I'm just going to refer to it as a QBR, business review. Okay. And somewhere in your review, if you have a happy customer, make it part of your review. So you're closing down, said, hey, we've had a great quarter, we've had a great month together. The project went really well. We worked through everything. You're satisfied. You had a great outcome. Anybody you think you can do? And here's right in there is where you can bring that handout and leave behind, but you can make it integrated into your business review. Make it part of your process. And the more that you do that, the more that you'll receive. Um, and it's just an opportunity for you to, again, you're at typically when you do those reviews, you're not at a point where the customer is upset with you about something. Usually you're in a pretty positive
Yeah.
point where you're having a good conversation. So always, you always want to build on the good while they're feeling good about something. And, the time when they call and they're saying, I'm having this problem and your tech has been on the phone for 2 hours and it didn't get fixed. That's not the time to say, hey, could you refer me somebody that you think would use
Right.
the service? But when they're happy at your business review, it's a great time to bring it up. So
Yeah.
do it. If you don't ask, what's the worst thing? They're not gonna say, you know, in Philadelphia, what we used to say when I was carrying my bag, get out, stay out, and don't ever come back. They're not going to do that. They're just
Yeah.
not. They'll politely say, I can't think of somebody right now, but I'll give it a review, or hey, um, I know you might not know somebody right now, but here's our program. I know that we've done a good job for you. The outcomes have been good. How about I just shoot you a note in a couple days, and maybe if you could introduce me to a couple of your associates. You know, there's different ways that you can do the soft sell on it. But again, if you don't ask, you don't do it. And if you don't have the flyer that you can leave behind once you walk out the door, they forget about it.
Right.
So having that built into your process is a do. It's a must, right? Because it's a leave behind that they can leave on their desk. And if they leave it on their desk, which they probably will, it'll probably sit on their desk for a couple days with your logo and uh, information in front of them. That gives them the opportunity to look at it 4 or 5 times maybe before they move it into a different pile or into a folder or something different. So use that power of suggestion and repetition and seeing your brand in front of them. And that leave behind is a huge token of, you know, I need to do that, right? So
I might be getting ahead of myself, and it might be something that's on one of your next dues. But during that conversation, when you're having that ask, looking for someone that could benefit from our services, great time also to say, on the flip side, who are you looking for? Because I have a lot of clients, and maybe they're in need of your services. And what specifically is an ideal client for you, and how can I help you out?
yeah, and I mean it is a do, and it's always a question that you ask. I'm not sure that I have the best answer for that one though, Dan.
Okay,
I think that's really relationship driven. Uh,
sure.
you know, but what I find the biggest problem when clients or when you're in front of a client is the ask. No
Yeah,
matter how you ask, you have to ask, and that's the do ultimately. Uh,
right.
and if you don't ask, you can't receive. And if you don't ask, what's the worst thing they're going to say? No. Well, if you're a salesman and you haven't heard no before, what are you going to do? So
Well, the great Wayne Gretzky, right? You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
exactly, exactly. So. And we know how you Canadians, I mean, Northerners, like your hockey. So
Us Michiganders. I do throw the A in there every so often. Just I guess being so close to Canada, I just I guess I acquired that. So
well, it was a good win for Canada a couple weeks back. So
yeah, exactly. So
so
let's move on to our next one.
so do so far we have obviously design a program that's around emotion. We have a program that's designed where you leave something behind. You have a program where you're following up, right? And follow up is the key. Don't just mention it and then leave it. You heard me say, like, in a couple days, I can email you or call you or whatever. Bring it up and make it part of your conversation. Don't make it so it feels intrusive. Again, the ask is important, but hey, have you given any more thought to anybody you might be willing to refer to us? It's got to be something in that sales process that you continually have conversation about. And again, the more you do it, you don't want them to get offended by it. You gotta find that fine line where you start to back off a little bit, right? But if you follow up a week after with just an email and says, "Hey, I just would love to just ask you the question one more time, and then I'll let it set. Is there anybody? Have you thought any more about that referral program I put in front of you? I would love to send you out for a really nice evening out or whatever, with a great referral in it. Statistics say that you have a 78%, and I can't remember where it was. It might have been out of the Sales and Marketing Association that I belong to. You have a 78% of closing a deal that is a warm referral.
Mm,
So if you all go back and you look at deals that you've won from referrals, you probably have a very, very high close rate on those. The second thing that it provides is for you is your cost of acquisition, right? So I bet for most of your cost of acquisition of a new client, probably 5 to 7 meetings, several proposal reviews, and all that, right? It's just the way some of the nature, and it's probably a 60-day or greater close cycle because not everybody's got the training on proper upfront qualification to get that to a 45-day or less close, right? So there's a lot of learning that you're doing as you're growing up to that mature and higher OML kind of MSP, but um, you gotta build those components and build them into the program. So now let's talk about a don't. No, like I said, don't make it so, hey, Dan, you gonna refer me anybody this week? Like, what do you got for me? You got any referrals? Like, what can you do for me? Now, if Dan was my best buddy and we were at the bar all the time and I could, and he would, but he'd look back at me and like, dude, you need to, you need to just chill on the referral thing. Just knock it off.
Right.
He would feed that back to me. So, it sounds like a BNI meeting Raul just put up. Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. But in honestly, in a BNI, what are you there to do? You're there to exchange leads, right? Isn't that what a BNI really is about? So, um, but when you're talking with your customers, I, I use the word with them. What's in it for me? Always remember what's in it for the customer, right? The referral is good, but think of it also this thing. If the customer is giving you a feeling of uneasiness to do it, you need to back off. Don't push. And the
Yeah.
reason being is they're worried about their reputation or they're worried about how management might view them if they're taking a perspective. So don't do that and push so hard that they don't feel comfortable doing that. You need to find it in the right way. Everybody's got a different approach. Some people are very direct and forward. I'm one of those kind of people that, you know, can sugarcoat nicely, but I can get you my point quick. And if you don't, if you don't do it, then, there's an arrogance that goes with your sales pitch and who you are, right? Um, so but do make them comfortable where they feel that they can give you that and not have any um you don't owe them and they don't owe you. It's not a, because I did it, you own me now, or because I
Right.
did this. What you don't want to hear coming back, and if you ever do in a referral program coming back, I gave you all these referrals, so why don't you just do this for me, no cost? Make me look good. When it gets to a relationship like that, you have to change that narrative, right? You need to look at that. And I've been in situations where people have done that. So don't let yourself get into that situation. If you see it, be smart enough to recognize it, put the brakes on a little bit and, make sure that this is a neutral, this is a neutral zone referrals. And you are doing something for them. So there should be nothing. You're giving them a reward to go out. And you have to remind them, some of the people sometimes, where they will then, after they get the reward, they will start to try and dangle that over your head for additional incentives when you do a project downstream. So don't fall into that trap, right? That's a that's a bad one to fall into. It hurts your sales, it hurts your relationship in the end, because it will create bad will somewhere along the way, because now you're on the spot and you have to say no or you have to say yes and acquiesce. So don't don't let yourself get to that. If you get to that position, the advice is, hey, you did get a reward, so we appreciated it. We gave you the reward, and that's where it was. If you'd like to change your next reward and where it goes to the company instead of you, we're happy to do that.
Yeah.
So don't let yourself get there, but do control that situation, because I have seen, and personally I've been in the position where a rep, got put into that position. So be very careful with that.
Yeah. Read the room and read the room quickly. Right. And also look for opportunities to drop that referral in just during a general conversation. When you reach out to them and you're having a conversation and just you're just having general chit chat and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm just so stressed. The kids have had this sports thing and that sports thing, and it just I just need a break." And, then all of a sudden you're like, hey, I could slip in. How about an opportunity where you and your wife could get away out a night out of the town? We're with our referral program, if you refer someone over to me, yada, 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 right? So just look for more natural ways versus, your catalyst for calling them is asking for a referral. So just another thought of how you can slip that in and
Yeah.
it's more,
So here's another don't. If you're having a conversation with your client and they bring up one of their associates that's in a similar line of business, don't assume that that's a referral. Don't assume that just because they mentioned the name, that means you should pick up the phone and call somebody. I mean, it's certainly your prerogative. You could have gotten to that customer, but you could easily say, do you mind if I call that person and reference your name?
yeah,
And that certainly is a warmer way of making a cold call than not, but it's not necessarily a referral. You're not paying it out. Now, if they come back to you at that point and you ask permission, because don't skip that portion where you ask permission. Nobody wants to get a call blindly from an associate that they respect in the industry or a friend and say, hey, I got this call from you. He said, you mentioned that we might be a good place for services. Now that person's in the hot seat and they may not be real happy with you. They may not like that kind of phone call. So don't
right.
skip that stage. Make sure that you ask for permission. It is an important thing and it is part of the relationship drive. So just don't skip it, right? Important. And more than likely, most of your customers, if you bring it up front, hey, you just mentioned this company and all that. Do you think they'd be a candidate for our services? Yeah. Would you mind introducing me? Now, that's not a full um, referral, but there's nothing wrong with you at that point saying, hey, you made the introduction. I really appreciate it. Um, let me let me get you, let me and stop by, say, hey, you're going to be in the office and stop by and find out what their favorite coffee from your local coffee house is and bring them their favorite coffee and morning Danish or whatever it is and drop it off. Kind of like Ted Lasso used to make the biscuits and bring it into the
Yeah.
manager, right? Do something like that. You created an emotional attachment again to that customer because you did something nice. You went out of your way to do something nice for them, and so that's a do, right? If they're gonna give you something or make that attachment, it may not be the full referral, so they may not receive the full benefit because they didn't do it, but if they go ahead and will make a phone call or send an email and make the introduction, get them a cup of coffee. What does that cost? You're going to spend that money in gas driving around looking for somebody anyway. So go
Right.
ahead and do that. Right. Um, and then another don't that I want to get out of here, and then maybe we can go to some Q&A is be realistic, be very realistic at what you're asking people. Be clear, be realistic, but don't overpromise anything. Like, don't let your referral put you in a position to say, I can refer you these 5 things, but this is what I want. That is not a good position to be in. And you have to, at that point, say, well, our program doesn't accommodate for that. And a lot of people really don't like having that hard conversation when somebody puts them in the hot seat. But you have to control the situation and you have to teach them how to do business with you. That's like sales 101. Teach them how to business with you. Don't let them tell you how to do business with them. And you can do that very well through process and how you onboard them and things of that nature. But same goes in the sale, right, of the referral. And the referral is a sale. It is a sell. You're selling them on something that they're going to do for you and you're going to do back for them. And in the end, that's the do's and the don'ts of them. Just don't overpromise something and don't get yourself in a compromising position. And don't be very, very careful of doing something on the side out of your own pocket or advising a salesperson. If it's going to be something that the company is going to do, then keep it in the company. But if you have a rogue rep that starts paying people on the side to do things, that could come back to you. And now all of a sudden somebody makes a comment to you and says, oh yeah, well, I referred something to your rep and he, gave me $250. And well, how are you going to handle that one? So you have to make sure that, you know, do roll it out to your team properly and don't allow them to be rogue and create their own wrapper around it on the outside, because that comes back to you. And it can then put you in a position of, all right, do I fulfill this promise or do I have to back it down? And if you back it down, now what happens with that relationship? And you don't want to be in that position. So,
Fred's got a great question. Do you give the gift regardless of whether the referral turns into a customer?
so if the customer, if you get a referral, I always recommend doing a little something nice when you get the referral. That way, go take the cup of coffee and the favorite donut, favorite latte that they like from Starbucks, get it mixed up, take it over, deliver it. And again, it gives you another opportunity to be in front of your customer. And even if you don't have an appointment, if you drop in and you say, well, come out, I got this cup of coffee for them. They're more likely going to walk down the hallway and see you and take the cup of coffee and ask you if you want to come back for a couple minutes. And you
Yeah.
get touch and you get a conversation. So it's just another strategy to get you in front of them. It's a good touch, and you're giving them a personalized thank you again for doing something nice for you. So you may not close it, and if you don't close it, they don't get it, and you can always provide them the feedback loop and say, I really appreciate, that you referred it to us. And I'm looking forward to additional referrals, and you know, um, we didn't get that one, but we look forward to future ones with you, and being able to, have this work. So,
Incentives are great. So just a little social experiment here. I've got, I guess it depends on how much time we have here. We have about 10 minutes left. I'd like to open up to some questions, but I have up to five $10 Starbucks gift cards that are burning a hole in my pocket that I'd like to give away for. It's going to be one per MSP that jumps on and asks a question live. And let's see how incentives work. So who's our first taker here?
so hold on, Dan. Let's
Yeah.
do this. Since most Starbucks uh, drinks now are probably in the $5 to $7 range, how
Yeah,
about I'll add another one and I'll send you those cards that you can distribute them. So let's make it $10. Five from you, five from me.
there we go. There we go. So uh, who's our
So
first taker?
the leave behind,
Hmm.
um, do you have a format for that where you like explain the program and then you say, here, refer us and we'll send you a Starbucks gift card or
So I always tell you the best thing to do is be open and up front, put it on your website, make it a menu item, referral program, explain it. I can send Dan a link that he can send to all of you that shows a couple of different ones that we've designed for our customers. They're not rocket science, they're pretty straightforward, but I can send you some that kind of give you that. If you refer us, this is what you get. If we close it, this is what you get. Here's some terms and conditions, etc. And I tell you to put it on your website because you want people to register that referral, and using the website form is a formal way for them to do that. So if they don't talk to you, they can go to your website and they can put it in, right? So that's the number one step of it. Then when you do a leave behind, you mimic the rules, regulations, terms, conditions, provisions of what you have on the website. So it's a very consistent rollout and delivery. Obviously, a PDF that you leave behind is going to have a header and a footer versus, what your website might look like, a little different, right? But the core contents will be very similar. And then, again, when you do a case study, if you want to do it on the backside, what the problem was, what the solution was, and what the outcome was. And in the problem area, identify everything. And these are small, short little paragraphs. I mean, you just three little drabs and then like some kind of zinger quote, aha moment that your customer raves about you, right? In there that you reference the quote. But in the solution set, in the PDF, if you mention like we provided the IT managed services that provided them, blah, 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 make a hot link back to your services page, right? Drive that PDF to get them back to your website, or the referral link to get them back to your website so they can register, or they can get in, or they can see more, right? So I would say that's, what the format would look like. And I've seen them all different ways, but I will forward some over to Dan when I get back in the office tomorrow.
Perfect. Mike, got you down. We'll get you that $10 Starbucks gift card over today. And then Fred Robinson, you are number 2. Oop, not hearing you, Fred.
Here we go. I had
There we
flipped
go.
We're one of the typical MSPs that our referral program is. We give you the first month's MRR for the, from the referring client that you gave us.
Mhm.
You think it's necessary to do both? It seems to me if we're going to give them a gift, then why give the company, the first month's MRR? Because the main reason for them referring us somebody was they got something in return, as you said. Do I still need to do the amount of credit to the company?
So I mean, this is a preference thing. I like to drive emotion. I think emotion ties people to it. Now, what I want to take a step back and say is, you may always think that the referral program comes from your point of contact, and that's who you're pitching the referral program. You could put your referral program link into a newsletter that goes to your client base. And it could be one of the people that works in that organization that likes you and just raves and you've done really good work. And it may not be your point of contact that actually does the referral. So again, what's in it for me? What's the whiffum factor for me to do that? So it could be the gatekeeper that refers somebody over because, they've not been the point of contact, but you built a relationship and they hear something and somebody was in the lobby and they said, gee, your technology is working really well for you, or I like your phone system in the way that you could, route the calls real quick, and they say, oh, well, this is the company that we do. You should give them a call, and, and they register the deal. So, it's, you can do nice things or you can do both. Don't make your program so rich that you can't afford it. Make it so, it's obviously a point. You have to be profitable when you bring that customer in the door. You don't want to eat too much into your onboarding, because that's probably what you're doing is you're giving them something up front that if you were really to take the cost of the acquisition of the customer, that would be put back into the deal of what it cost you to acquire that client, right? Into
Yeah,
hour of labor, 2 hours of labor, or whatever it might be. So, you have to balance that. It's a great question, and I can't tell you that one is over. I have some customers that do both. I have some that purely look at it as anybody could give me. Doesn't even have to be a customer. You could just be somebody that I know and you like me and you've heard that we do good work and we've never done work for you. And you refer people all the time. And you fill out the referral, and I'm loving sending you to, gift cards for Morton Steakhouse. So
yeah.
uh,
No, you're right. I had the same thought about like some of the our champions are not necessarily the people signing the checks,
mhm,
and they'd be ideal person to send this to. Yeah.
yep.
Okay. Thanks.
And I
Yeah.
think anywhere you can create that emotional attachment is better.
We have
Excellent.
many of them.
I don't get an emotional attachment that you gave my company. I mean, look, there used to be a lot of loyalty with vendors and all that. There's so many people out there anymore that the loyalties are going, right? And our business, at every side of our business in this community, it's relationship driven, right? If I have a relationship with you, you're more likely to tell me when there's a problem with what we're doing for you or not, right? But if I don't have a relationship with you and you're just buying from me, you'll drop me in a heartbeat and move to somebody else if it's to your benefit. You won't
Agreed.
call me and
Yeah.
talk to me. So those people that you're champions, create the emotional attachment, build the emotional attachment. And I can't tell you how important that is.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank
Brett,
you.
I've got you down. We'll get that card over to you today as well. I think we have time for one more question. Who wants to jump in?
Not so much a question, but kind of just an add-on to what's saying, because we do use a pretty extensive referral stuff. So one of the things that we use, and I put it in the chat, is a lot of the marketing development funds that we get through vendors. We'll use that. So we're tracking Net Promoter Score (NPS). So obviously referrals is a part of the NPS, but other things like that, and then using those MDF to basically take those particular clients out, and obviously getting more referrals from that. But referrals have been a huge part of helping us grow. We're one of our main verticals is larger nonprofits, so we'll have like a C-suite or somebody who worked at a nonprofit go to another one, and then that's basically kind of a, hey, I really liked working with these guys on my previous one, and we kind of branch out and stuff from there. So absolutely building the personal relationship and doing those, and to kind of Fred's point too, exactly that is giving the money is like its bottom line on the business side, but the personal relationship side, I would agree, and have seen results just internally with our own MSP that it's a much better referral factor, getting better results than just the bottom line.
And that is a great add and a do. Where I caution you with MDF is not everybody has the means to track NPS or even understands what NPS is, right? So having the tool set or the CRM or some mechanism to monitor that engagement, manage that engagement, because if you receive MDF, to continue to get MDF for a source like that, you have to be able to report back and engage with your partner to say, at least they should require it, saying, show me my return on investment. So, if you're tracking NPS and it's turning dollars for you, and nonprofits are the most incestuous business of referrals, because executive directors come and go and they move to nonprofit and they take the people they like with them. So, and they love to get in circles and refer to each other. So you've got a great model if you're able to get the MDF to do it and the referrals working, and you can track it and feed it back. Because if you can feed it back to your vendor and it's working and you're showing ROI, they'll probably increase their spend with you over time. And you've probably found that out too. Great job.
Yeah, that's an excellent one. And Josh, although not a question, very great comments. I've got you down for a Starbucks gift card as well, and we'll get that over to you today. We are out of time, and before we go here, I want to throw in another link. I had put in Pete's link to his LinkedIn site, so you can connect with him earlier. This is also a link to Equilibrium's Marketech's website. Please check it out. A lot of great information there. With that being said, I know, Pete, you need to get to the airport. You're in Chicago and going to be heading back home. And for everybody joining us today, thank you so much for being here. Pete, as always, thank you for your time and
Thank you.
knowledge. Hope everybody has a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you all soon. Take care, everybody.
Bye now.
Thank you.